Good? Okay. Okay, so we're going to start out with, are you aware that this video will be used for education and research, and do we have your permission to use this video?
Yes, ma'am.
And you can just be as casual you want, you can just, it's not formal or anything, so they'll be sure to poke in like they did with him. So.
And you could just start out and talk. And,
yes, if
and
you would
Christy
rather.
will catch up with you
Yes.
wherever.
So it's up to you however we want to, but we do want to start out with your name and where you were born and
Your parents.
your parents and siblings. So.
Helen Sue Thurman Bunnell. I was born close to Rennick Schoolhouse with attending Dr. Robinson from Cincinnati.
Huh.
And I lived there until I was 6 years old, and then I moved a mile away and had a mile and a quarter to walk to school, back to Rennick.
Okay. Who are your parents and your siblings?
And my parents was Andy Floyd Thurman, my mom, Beulah Pearson.
Yeah. Yeah. And your grandparents? Go ahead.
And
Who are your siblings?
mom's dad was named Riley Pearson,
Okay.
and mother Rosa Marshall. And dad's father's name was James Madison, and his mother's name was Arminta. And my brothers was James Cletus, Chester Floyd, Cecil Dwayne, Charlie Kay, and I have one sister, Wilma Louise.
So where did you grow up and go to school at? Tell us a little bit about your young years and
I
stuff.
went to Rennick through the 8th grade, starting with Dorothy Lynn. Went through 1st and 2nd grade the first year because I was the only one in the class.
For those that wouldn't know where Rennick is, could you explain a little bit where Rennick is?
Rennick is about halfway between Cincinnati and Weddington, 5 miles from Cincinnati. 4 or 5. And when I got out of the 8th grade, I started to Cincinnati in high school. But going back to grade school, I had Dorothy Glenn, 1st and 2nd grade, Mary Clark, the 3rd grade. And from there on, there's a bunch that I can't even remember all.
So tell us a little bit about the school days. Tell us what you did for fun, who your friends were.
I had quite a few friends in grade school. Helen Cosson was probably one of my best friends. And a little later, Wanda Faye Fusselman was a friend and still a friend, which she married a Cantrell.
What were some of the fun things y'all used to do, or what did y'all do as friends?
Just what normal kids do at school, mainly in grade school. We never, we had recess. We always played hard, ball tag, ante over, whatever. And when we started high school, we played basketball, but we had a dirt court. We didn't get to play inside. And we played with a lot of different schools, team schools, Cane Hill, Prairie Grove, Westville, Lincoln, Salem Springs.
Y'all have a pretty good team.
Yeah, it was a pretty good team.
What did y'all do as friends outside of the school? Were y'all able to get together, or
Mainly with school activities, whatever there might be, whether it's ball games or what have you. And a movie occasionally. And going back to when I was small, I remember Uncle Marshall Pearson that lived real close to us. He grew sugar cane, and he would take it to the, I don't know what you call it, where they cooked it down, made syrup out of it. But he had to pass our house, and Charlie Kay was 5 years old at the time, and he would come by the house. He'd stop, pick Charlie Kay up, take him, and they'd unload the cane, come back, and he'd drop Charlie off, go get another load of cane. We did this all day long. And he thought Uncle Marshall was the greatest. And we never ceased to have something to do. Growing up, we get our chores done, hurry up and get it done so we could play games. And we made our own games. We didn't have games of any kind. We played any over hopscotch and all that kind of goodies.
So what did your parents do for their,
He was, Dad was deep into cattle raising. He grew cattle, I guess, from the time they got married till he got where he couldn't get out and tend to them, and he'd sit in the house and face the window so he could see his cattle. He had to see those cattle, and he always had each one of them named. He knew whether it was 2 cows or 40 cattle. He had them all named. That which was kind of funny.
what was your favorite cow?
Pardon?
Who was your favorite cow?
One that he gave me when I was little, and they didn't think it was going to live, but I was taking care of it. And I don't remember what her name was. She finally got in the mud and couldn't get out, and she died before they could save her. But that was after I was married, before she died. I had her for most of my growing up years.
We're going to pause right here. Let me let you talk a little bit and let us adjust that to where we need to. So go ahead and tell us your full name.
Tell Glenita
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Hello, Glenita.
Hey, how are you, Cal? I want to ask you a question while they're testing that. Who were all the girls on your basketball team that you all were so good?
Oh gosh, I can't remember.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to do
That sounds
that.
better.
If I had a picture, I could pretty well name them, but she won't let me turn
I think that's
it
good.
on.
I think that's good.
I can tell you,
When
the only
it was
ones I can
up too
remember
much,
is
it
Shirley
echoed.
Smith,
And
Joanne
I moved.
Spears.
Well, no, when you had it turned up
Can
more
you
than what it
move?
was originally, it echoed a little bit too
Yes,
much.
yes,
So
I
I need
had
to turn
Shirley
it just a
Smith,
little bit.
Joanne
Yeah.
Spears.
So it's perfect right now. I think.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know. I thought I'd get
Mary
clear.
Lou
But
Willis.
you might need to tell something, straighten something out.
Well, she'd already screwed up on the sugar.
I don't want him in a war while we're trying to film here. I'd have to edit too much.
You don't use sugar cane. Make
Shirley
starter
Smith,
molasses.
Joanne Spears, Mary Lou
You
Willis.
get starter cane.
Who else did you tell? Okay.
Was Willie?
Willing Washington. Ann Lou didn't play, did she? Willing Barnes.
There was a brown girl too, I think, and I don't remember her name.
One of the Minnie Browns.
Probably. but I
See,
don't
the
know.
oldest ones were Betty.
Might have been Irene.
She was
I don't
younger.
know.
Irene, she was 10 years older than me, so she'd have been 86 right now.
Okay.
Irene.
Probably her.
Okay.
Probably
Irene.
her.
Irene, Laureen. Okay.
I'm not sure.
Irene was the prettiest one.
And Max was our referee.
Mac Brown was?
Max.
Oh, your Max?
Mm-hmm.
Did he show a little partiality to you?
No, not really, not then.
Okay, not then.
Later in the year, maybe.
You got his attention, didn't you? Okay.
Okay, so let's go back to the cows. Your dad was your parents were into cows and stuff like that for their lifestyle. And so what was the way of life back during that time?
Just doing what we had to do, starting with picking strawberries. And I thought I was the best, because I was like probably 4 years old, maybe 5. I picked strawberries, and the man that we picked for, he'd go along behind me and pick what I left, which I guess I just got the big ones, I don't know. And he'd put them in my carton. And they paid us like a penny a quart to pick them. And this one year I picked, I guess, probably 5 quarts, I don't know. And I had some money, and they asked me what I was going to do with it. And I said I was going to buy me a purse. And one of their neighbors, relatives, said, well, I'll take you to buy you a purse. So we went to Fayetteville and I bought me a purse. She said, what are you going to put in it? I said, I don't have any money. I spent it all from my purse. So she gave me a nickel to put in my purse.
How did y'all get to Fayetteville to get your purse?
She had a car. I don't know what kind of car.
Tell us a little bit about chores at home.
Oh, no.
No, wait. Is it? Did you need to see who it is?
Yeah.
Just make sure you don't need to answer it.
Ross was vibrating in my pocket while I got these out.
Brandon.
Oh,
I can't answer.
Do you want to just call him back? Yeah, you can just you wait and call him back later. Okay, so
Hi, Helen. This is Brandon with Carter
You're okay.
Healthcare. I was talking to Tim. I know we were planning on doing
You're
that
okay.
this
It's
summer.
okay.
I chatted with him, and we decided to go ahead and let me come out today and do the discharge with Ben Tim coming out. I was going to try to come by sometime between 3 and 4. If you can give me a call back, my number is 918-289-1123. Thank you.
do you need to call him back?
no.
Because we can edit all that out. Okay. So tell us a little bit about chores and home and farm life and
Oh, we had chores to do every day. We didn't get off free from from all the chores. And I was a little tomboy, so I liked to do all of the things that the guys did, not my sister or mom. We worked in the garden, and everybody was plowing the garden. I wanted to do that. So I plowed the garden, put the reins around my neck. They come out and they caught me and they said, don't you know you're going to kill yourself? And my brother told a good one on me that I was still wanting to plow. And they let me plow in the cornfield. Only I plowed it wrong and I plowed it all up. I guess they never did let me live that down because I didn't get to plow anymore.
What did you have to eat? What did your mama cook?
Everything that you grow in the garden, plus bacon and chicken.
Do you ever have to kill the chickens to eat them?
Had to kill the chickens. She raised layers, sold eggs, to buy groceries, what you had to buy, because they just grew most everything in the garden. One time that a funny thing I thought happened, at least I got a lot of giggles out of it, was a fellow from, I guess, Cincinnati, had him a grocery truck, and he would come around and they would buy groceries from him off of this truck. And he always bought Mom's eggs. And these eggs, they had them in a crate, and I don't remember how many dozen eggs. 20, 30 dozen eggs in a crate. He bought that crate one time. He and Dad always liked to have a big talk. They sat out and they talked and they talked and they talked, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I'm running behind time. I gotta go." So he jumps in his truck. He backs over that crate of eggs. And so much for that.
Do you remember who it was?
Pete Jones.
Pete Jones.
I've never heard that about going out in the country.
You know, he had his truck all fixed up. He had all the spices and everything on the sides of his truck. You know, pepper, vanilla, blah, 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 whatever you needed in the kitchen. And didn't have to go to the store.
Was it Watkins, you say?
Mm-mm. I don't know what brand it was, but I don't think it was Watkins. It could have been. I don't know. And I guess all of my life we picked strawberries. We had strawberries, and we picked for other people that had strawberries. And everybody wanted to pick 100 quarts. Of course, me, I'm lazy. I never did get near 100 quarts. My sister did, and there was a lady named Ruby.
England.
What's her name?
England.
England. Ruby England. She could pick more strawberries than anybody. Just put everybody else into the shade. And I think at that time, we probably got a nickel a quart. Picking them, you know, you had to pick a lot of strawberries. So after the strawberries were gone, we had, on the farm there was some blackberries, blueberries. So I'm gonna pick them, I'm gonna sell them. I'm still a small kid. And I don't know how many blueberries I picked, but they were as big as any raspberries. And I wanted Dad to take me to Cincinnati to what grocery store? Reed.
Thomason.
No, not Reed.
Creed Wortham.
Creed Wortham store. And Dad sat out in the truck because he didn't want to do this, but I begged him to take me there. And I guess Creed felt sorry for me because he bought them. And I thought, man, I've got pumping money in my pocket.
You're gonna have to also remember to look this way when you're talking.
Sorry about that.
Otherwise, we'll have you on the side of your face. Did you ever have to take care of any animals or anything when you were young?
Oh, we all
Properties?
had little lambs. We had pet chickens.
Did you have a pet of your own?
No. We had dogs. We had turkeys. And we had one turkey that was pretty much of a pet. Big turkey gobbler. White. He was a goodie.
What was his name?
Tom. My brother Charlie always wanted to go work in the field when they were baling hay or whatever they might be doing. And he was small and hot. It was hot out. Mom and Dad wouldn't let him go. So he'd stand on the gate and cry and bawl till he got sleepy and get off of the gate, and he'd lay down and go to sleep in the yard. And this Tom Turkey come over and I guess couldn't wake him up, so he gets on his back and choo 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 choo. And Mom looks out the window and she sees it and comes unglued. She thought, I guess, that he had killed the kid.
So, who were some of your neighbors in Cincinnati?
Ogdens, Cawthon, Puckett's, Johnson's. That was our closest neighbors.
Bakers.
And what do you remember Cincinnati being like?
That I thought it was the greatest place in the world. We went down for a cipher match, and this was before they had water inside the building, and they had a big pipe that the water came out of, I guess, for drinking water. I thought that was the greatest thing that ever happened. And we went there a lot for cipher matches. And I was pretty good at math, but that was the only thing. I have to pat myself on the back on that one.
Was there a favorite place you used to go when you were a kid to Cincinnati?
Not really. Go to a movie down there once in a while, and that was about it outside of school. All the other things were school activities.
Did they only show one type of movie, or did they show different types?
Just the westerns.
Just the westerns.
Well, were you in the school building that still down there, sort of?
Yes. Yes. And we finally got to play basketball in the gym and get off of the dirt court. But that didn't go over very big.
Why is that?
I have no idea.
I can tell you.
What?
It wasn't a basketball court. They had a goal right out in the middle of the floor. And they called it something else. It wasn't big enough gym for a basketball court.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so for community gatherings, do you remember anything about community gatherings? Any picnics, auctions,
we
things
had-
you did for church?
We had lots of those just about every Saturday night in the summer. We had ice cream suppers. That was everybody that wanted to come. And some came from quite a distance. And not just at my house, we would change to a different house each Saturday. The hostess would plan that Saturday where we was going to go the next Saturday.
Now, were they expected to make the ice cream, or did you all have what kind of ice cream?
Everybody made a gallon of ice cream. Whatever flavor you wanted to do. And in the summer, we had strawberry, and more strawberry. And another friend had, she always made chocolate. And for some reason, the kids didn't like it. We just gotta have chocolate. We'd get it and we'd go dump it. Say we ate it, but it wasn't, because it wasn't good. I don't know who made them.
Where'd you go to church at? Or did you?
Well, we had church mainly at the Rennick Schoolhouse. Evangelist came in and had church on Sunday and Wednesday night.
Y'all
Which,
had-
which side of the road was the Rennick School?
West side of the road.
West side.
Did y'all ever have any, what they used to call the tent meetings?
No.
And what were some of the activities and church functions that went on?
Oh, behind the Rennick Schoolhouse was a big hill that we call Slate Hill. They had a lot of slate on it. And that was to climb that slate hill, I guess. And most of us did. There was a creek at the bottom. We knew what was going to happen if we didn't make it.
So, tell us a little bit about your teenage years. What all did y'all do as teenagers, and what was dating like? What were some of the activities maybe y'all did when you were dating?
We rode horses, mainly. And one of my friends had a bicycle, but she didn't have a horse. So we would trade. She could ride the horse, but I couldn't ride that bicycle. Never did learn how to ride a bike.
Okay.
She asked me something else.
What dating?
Oh,
What did y'all?
that man over here. He was he was a senior and I was a freshman. And before the year was over, he was always sitting by me in English class, I think it was. Teacher was asked me a question and he'd answer for me. That's the reason I never learned English. And after he graduated, he went to college in Springfield, Missouri. But he'd come home as often as he could on Friday afternoon. And we had a teacher that I think kind of liked Max. And he would always let him see me at school. And that probably was bad, because look what happened.
How old were girls back then? How old were they when they were allowed to date? How old were girls when they were allowed to date back then? Did it vary, or was it?
I presume it varied. I don't know. I don't know if there was any particular date.
How old were you when your parents let you?
I think I was probably 14.
And what were some of the things y'all did for dates? Like, did you go to the river? Did you go to movies? Did you
We'd
just
go-
hang out at the house, or?
We'd go to the movie quite a bit. And he liked to come to my house to eat. Always, you got one of those sandwiches?
What kind of sandwiches did he like?
It was a pork sandwich.
So how did y'all meet, or how did y'all, how long did y'all date before you got married?
Well, I was 13 when I first met him, and I was 17 and a half when we got married.
And where did you get married at?
Siloam Springs Methodist Church.
And what is your spouse's name and your children's names?
Maxwell Jean Bunnell. Stanley Jean Bunnell is our son, and his wife's name was Ginger Cox.
Did they have any children?
And they have a boy and a girl. They have a boy, Zachary, and a daughter, Chelsea. And we have a daughter, and she's married to Tim Spiker, and they have no children.
And what is her name? What is her name?
Her name is Sandra Sue, and it is now Spiker.
And did your kids where did they grow up at?
They grew up in Tulsa.
So, I was also going to ask you, what was kind of like the hairstyles and stuff back when you were dating and stuff? Or the clothing, or
Oh, goodness.
you
Well,
know any of that?
You always put your hair in curlers of some kind. And some of them we call pin curls, and others we used on a rod. And the first date that I had with Max, if you can call it a date, I had just washed my hair, and it was long, and I put it in pin curls. And of course we didn't have phone. And he and his mother and his brother came to pick me up to go to the movies. So what am I going to do with wet hair? Back then they tied a scarf around your head with a knot on top. That's how I went to the movie the first time.
Which brother? Was JD or James?
James.
I don't remember.
James had the car.
Okay, so were you very ornery as a child?
That's not a fair question.
No, fair enough. Well, who were some of the ornery kids? How's that? Who were some of the ornery kids when you were growing up?
All of them as ornery as me.
And what were some of the things you liked to do in the country growing up? What was some of your most favorite things to do?
What's my favorite? I presume play Annie over. That's all I ever wanted to do is play Annie over. And you don't know what Annie over is.
So I was getting ready asking that. What is Annie over? So
We had a 2-story house. You had a person on each side of the house, and you threw the ball over the house, and if you caught it, you could come and, usually there's more than just 2 people. You'd have to tag everyone when you came around, and then they'd get to throw the ball over.
now is it whoever caught it got to chase them, or was it your whole side when you caught?
No, just the one that caught the ball.
Was the person that went tagged? What was did you have any other stories as a young person that you would like to tell, whether it's horse riding, riding bikes, or going to the creek, anything like that?
The most thing that I was ever scared of, I think, was when I was 10, 11 years old. I was taking piano lessons from Dorothy Glenn. And I'd ride the horse to my lesson once a week. And I just did this during the summer. And I had a favorite horse. I guess you might say it was my pet. Really wasn't, but it was. His name was Baby Ray, and I always rode him. But for some reason, this one day, I didn't ride him. I rode Dad's horse, which was a tall, tall horse. Had trouble getting on it. But after I got on it, it was fine. I got about halfway to my music lesson, and a snake ran across the road in front of us. And that horse reared up and turned around and took me back home in a snap. There was nothing I could do about it, but hang on.
Going back home, huh? Where it's
Go
safe.
back. Yep, get away from that snake.
Where'd you take piano lessons from?
Dorothy Glenn.
And do y'all have any questions for right now? I'm getting ready to go into retirement part.
I want to know what jobs you've held in your lifetime.
When I started out at Woolsworth as a clerk, and that was in Kansas City. And I left there and went to Sears and Roebuck. And if you ordered out of Sears and Roebuck catalog and the department was 9 or 11, I got to handle your orders. And I left there when Max got drafted. And I worked in New Jersey at Matawan in accounting, and that was a super nice job. But then, of course, he eventually got shipped out and I left that job. Come to Tulsa, next job I had was at Spartan Aircraft. And I got laid off there, and I went to Douglas. And I worked there until Sandra was born. And I retired there until she was about 15, I guess, and I went to work for an optometrist. But while she was growing up, I sold Avon, door to door, you know, way back when
Yeah.
you could still do that. And that was a lot of fun. And I retired from optometrist's office about the same time that Max retired, and then we started traveling a little bit.
So where are some of the places you traveled? Or where was your favorite place to travel?
Colorado and New York was probably the two favorite places. We went to Colorado a lot because our daughter and son-in-law liked to go with us to Colorado. They wouldn't go to New York. We was gone too long then for them.
And how did you travel?
We had a fifth wheel and pickup truck, pulled it.
Tell us about the club that you were in.
I don't remember how long we had that club, was in that club, but it was all local camping at the different lakes and just spend a weekend together. And everybody was getting older and older, and we was probably next to the youngest one of the bunch, and when they started dropping out, the club just dissolved. We had to go on our own again.
So now, inside the club, who decided on, or how did y'all decide where to go as a group? When you were taking your different trips and stuff and gathering together?
I guess the last meeting that we
During the
had
meetings?
would decide for where the next meeting was going to be.
And so you all met when you all went to certain spots?
Went to Grand Lake, Fort Gibson, Keystone. They didn't like to get too far away from the house. And Max liked to go.
What made you move to Claremore?
We needed a bigger house. And our son is a horticulturist, and he wanted to landscape a yard. In fact, that was part of his class in agriculture. Or, I don't mean agriculture, what did I say? Horticulture. And he landscaped our yard. And it was really pretty for a while. Now it's grown up. And he quit taking care of it. And I guess that was probably the biggest reason that we moved.
Were there very many homes when you moved here?
No. There was only about 4 or 5, I guess. And there was none behind us at all, and now it's all houses.
Is it a close community?
Pardon me?
Close community? No.
What years did you all realize that the community setting was starting to dissolve? Do you remember?
You mean in Tulsa?
And yeah, just wherever you were living at.
About 72, 3.
Did your kids go to school in Claremore? Or did they go in Tulsa?
Stanley graduated from Will Rogers High School in Tulsa. Sandra graduated from Will Rogers
High school in
High
Claremore.
School in Claremore.
Did you drive to, where did you work for the optometrist? Was it in Claremore or Tulsa?
Owassa.
Owassa.
Owassa. Yes, I drove back and forth.
I see where you worked, 2 or 3 blocks from Tiggerville. Or a mile, maybe about.
What is some of the most outstanding occasions or events in your life with Max? Something you would like to relive or talk about?
I guess that he got home safe from overseas, because I had that little baby and it needed its daddy home. That's probably the biggest.
Tell us what it was like to be the wife of a military person.
Weird.
How's that?
It was something out of a storybook, I thought. Nothing really seemed all that real. Because I was a country girl. And we go to the big cities and I don't belong here.
What do you remember your life being like when he was away? Did you have to take care of all the things on the home front, or did he still try to
Yeah.
take care of things while he was?
It was good, because I moved from Kansas City when he got drafted back and lived with my mom and dad till he got home. So I had all the help that I needed with them. He didn't have to worry about it.
Which is very important.
With your son being a horticulturist, did you have gardens?
Oh, we had everything in our garden like we did when we were growing up as kids. We had beans, potatoes, corn, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, you name it.
Strawberry.
Strawberries. One year I picked 550 quarts out of that garden.
Oh my goodness.
I got to where people see me coming and they just turned the other way. They didn't want any more strawberries.
Anybody else have anything? Is there anything that you'd like the next generations to know about that you think is important either in life or that you just a saying that you know remember being important?
I think that if the younger generation would keep the Lord in their prayers and believe in the Lord would be one of the main things for them.
And is there anything that we've left out that you would like to talk about?
Not anything I can think of.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, and is there anything that's been said that you do not want published? Okay. I always ask that just to make sure.
You may go viral.
What was you whispering about? I didn't do what?
I said, you get on Facebook, you may go viral.
When they hear our honor. We knew that already, didn't we? It pops out on you.
A good friend of mine lived across the street, and when she passed, I quit doing genealogy very much because I didn't like to go myself, and then it got where I couldn't go myself. And he'd go with me, but he'd get bored. And we went to Kansas City quite a lot, and but we have a lot better library here in town than Kansas City does. Only Kansas City's got a beautiful building.
Independence.
Well,
Fayetteville's
Independence.
got a good one too.
Are you talking about Claremore or
No,
Tulsa?
no,
Tulsa. I say, when I don't ever talk about Claremore. I always talk about Tulsa, I guess. I don't know why.
Well, Claremore ain't much.
We lived
They got
in
a
Tulsa
little over, not too
17
much.
years, so that was home, I guess.
What was the most interesting thing you found while you were doing genealogy research?
The most what?
Interesting thing.
That big cemetery in New York. Tell her about it.
I forgot what,
My great-great-great-grandpa.
was that three?
Yeah, great-great-great.
Was, I forgot the name of the cemetery.
Oswego, New York.
I know it, but I forgot the name of the cemetery.
Well, I don't know the name of that. I know where it is.
And
Binghamton.
we took pictures of his grandparents, and we got back out to leave, and it was near a church, right next to a church, and they had a marquee out front. And we need to take a picture of this. So we're standing here taking a picture of this church. And when they get the pictures back, this is still when you had a maid, you know. Max and I ran this marquee. I thought that was kind of neat
Reflection.
because then we found out that his grandparents helped start that church.
Well,
Great.
yeah, right.
And didn't you say the cemetery was just full of all Bunnells?
No, not that one. It was
Oh, that's
another
another
one.
That was in
I think that
Pennsylvania.
was in Pennsylvania.
Susquehanna
when
River,
he's-
Pennsylvania.
That's where the great
No,
great
no,
Great.
no. Oswego was where the great was. And the great was in
Pennsylvania.
western Pennsylvania. But down right across the road from where we was camped at Nichols was they called it the Bunnell Hill and said there was 20 of them in there, and the cemeteries was loaded with them.
Well,
We never did find that cemetery.
No, but we found a whole bunch of others.
So do you all remember when your families moved to Cincinnati?
Uh,
Remember
About 19.
You were in third grade.
That's when we moved from Oklahoma to Cincinnati, to March the 13th, Friday the 13th, 1936. I remember that date.
But Susie, your family came from John Thurman, didn't it?
Uh-huh.
Who came from Alabama in
Georgia.
Georgia in what year?
About 1845, I think.
I've seen some things that say earlier than that, that in 1829, and then again, they said that, I read somewhere just not too long ago that he had land grant things that he acquired that was in the earlier
Now-
1800s.
Now, that wasn't John, though, was it? That was David.
I don't know. I thought it was John, but I don't know for sure.
Well, John was born in 1812.
Okay.
And I may be wrong without looking, but I think that about 1845 is when he moved to Arkansas. And his dad was named Daniel.
Yeah, that may have been who.
And he was there earlier,
Okay,
but when, I don't know.
And my bunch came from
I think there's kind of a controversy about when.
Round Corners.
The only thing that I
Oh, we
could
were
come
New York.
up with,
And one of
it's,
them, the great
John
from
was
Round
on
Corner,
the
Pennsylvania, and
1850
his son
census
is
in
buried
Arkansas,
Beatty.
but I don't know about
And he's my
that.
great,
Yeah.
my grandpa, my great
But,
grandpa.
and
He's buried
on the
Beatty.
census,
James' son.
I forgot how they spelled their name. Wasn't like what they're spelling it today.
Had a D on it or something.
One of the girls spelled it Their.
Well, they get mad and they change their name a little bit.
And I bet I can settle that.
You're gonna lose.
You're okay.
You're not still doing this, are you?
Yeah, I was recording.
You're not either.
We're seeing
yeah.
the real Susie now.
She has you tied down.
You're on candid camera, huh?
You're on candid camera. Smile. Funniest home videos. I'll have a good time with it.
It's gonna be edited to fit your TV screen.
There you go.
It's really gonna go viral.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to start bribing Christy so she won't leave in those parts.
Don't worry. I don't put everything. If it's a good, we're okay. But I'll blackmail y'all later.
You got a
She
motive.
makes lots of money this way.